Hey Jerry, I'm going to give you a quick overview of how to change these circuit boards out in the PF-8000 machines. I've got an example of a board that I will be sending you. It'll look just like this with the pressure sensors attached, and there will be a small piece of tubing that will be attached to each of these. This tubing is not reusable in the machine, and so we'll be cutting that out. This board is for the dual row machine. This machine is a single row. The main difference is the sensors are up on top versus the ones on bottom here to give the right clearances allowed. But it still will serve as the same example for how you will do this. Now, we've got a lot of stuff in the way to get the board out. First, we've got all of the switching, all the valves, and those easily come out by the big switch, the latching valves, the ones in the back, come out by pressing down on a latch down here, a lever, and you push that down. It releases the wires. Wires come out. The wires are, if I can get this to zoom in, the wires follow the color coding. This first wire is green and with a yellow stripe. On some of them, it's black. Originally they were black. The company is switching the wiring code to this. I don't know why. It's from Europe, but that's going to be the new one. On the board, it says BK for black, which is this one. BR for brown, BL for blue. So when those plug back in, they should be easy to figure out because they should stay in their same configuration as they come out. The standard valves back here come down. You'll notice that they actually cross because position number 1 is here. The wire is back here. So the wire from 1 comes over to 1. The wire for 2 crosses over and comes over here to 2. Those are black and red. It's labeled back there. We'll take a small screwdriver or something sharp, pressing it into the spring. There's a little spring lock there that when that's pressed in, the wire will come right out. And so we'll press on each of these to remove those. Now, once these are out of the way, this blue tubing that comes over the top of the board will also be in the way. We'll leave it on here. These are pretty difficult to get off, but this up here can be unplugged and plugged back in. It won't ruin the tubing. And they're easy to unplug if you have some small pliers that we can pinch just behind the hose barb, and then you can lean over and for leverage actually just touch on the onto the valve, and that will just pull this directly off. You can see a spot where the hose barb plugs in, but those can be reused. They won't leak. I've never had any leak on me. If we had to replace them, then we would have to cut. This will not unplug. We'll have to cut it off and possibly put a little bit of lubrication to get that back on. I'll send you some extra tubing in case you do need to reuse any of these to cut some new ones and put them in. To get them in, you're going to probably have to lubricate this just a little bit with some probably preferably silicone lubricant, and using some pliers to press it on to the hose barb. They're fairly difficult to get on, and so you'll press until you get those on there past the hose barb. Now once those are all out, you'll be left with this. They'll be on the underside like these here, but these tubes going into the center of the manifold to the tubing, there's no way to get that off without damaging the sensor. So we'll just take some sort of angle cutters, and we'll just reach right into the center, and we will cut the tubing. Just go down through and cut each of the ones, and that'll free that up. Once that's all cut off, there, I'm not going to cut this one yet. Once those are cut off, we'll come back to the wiring area, and we'll just unplug some plugs. We have the mode switch, the fan, and the reset button. This is the USB converter, and you can just gently pull this entire thing just unplugs. So just unplug that, try not to bend any of the pins, and we'll leave this aside until you get the new board in, and then replug it. The power comes in over on this side, comes up through this hole. It doesn't really have to come through this hole. If you ran it somewhere else, it wouldn't necessarily hurt anything. But the problem is this end cap will not go through the hole, and I have to put that on after assembly. So to get the board out, you will actually have to put a small screwdriver or something sharp into and release the tab to get the wires out of this, so that this will go down through. So we'll have to keep track of that. Now once that's done, there's 4 screws that we'll take out, and then the board should lift out. Well, it'll lift out, except you'll have to fish it underneath, tilt it up, and come out underneath. And once you get it out, it'll look somewhat like this. You can take all these wires, group them together, and put a rubber band around them just to keep them out of your way until you get it in. But we'll take the circuit board. Before we do that, you will have where you cut loose each of the sensors, you'll have a little bit left on there. So a little bit of the tubing left. Easiest way to get that off, take some angle cutters and reach right in to the side, and you can pinch up a little bit of the rubber. See how that's pinching up, but it's not cutting my hose barb. So when I pinch that, see how that just opened that up and pulled it off, and it didn't damage the hose barb. So we'll cut and clean all those off, and then we are ready to take the circuit board, fishing it back underneath those top tubes. I don't have any tubes on this machine yet. Get it somewhat in place. We'll go ahead and put the screws into it, making sure that it's all aligned correctly. These will be somewhat close to the hose barb, and we're just going to take a screwdriver. Take some small pliers and just grab the tubing, and then we're just going to sort of bend it back around and put it on the end of the hose barb and press it on. Now, I don't have mine screwed down, so I've got a little bit of extra room. That's why we probably want to screw that down when we put that on. And then this will go right up and make it a good connection up to the just somewhere past the hose barb. So we'll get that on, reconnect the top tubings into where they should go to, and then we'll come down, replace the wiring on the valves. Number 1 will go over here, number 2 go over there. Same with 3 is going to cross over here, 4 is going to cross over back over here, and then the latching valves will go straight down back into where they came out of, all the way down through. Make sure each of the wires are seated into their spring-loaded place that they go. And once everything's plugged in there, make sure that you should be able to reassemble your power lead, plug it in, plugging in the other plugs that go in there, and then taking your USB, plugging it back down in properly. And then it's already, the processor has been programmed. I have checked it out, made sure it all works fine. Should be ready to turn on and work. So we'll turn it on, initialize the sensors to your atmospheric pressure by pushing the button, and you should be ready. You'll need to do a calibration on these sensors to this manifold, because even though they're CNC made, they're all just a little tiny bit different. So run a calibration and it should be ready to go. Thank you.